Chosen one, lock your focus on this moment. Do not let your mind wander. Do not let the distractions of the day pull you away. If you woke up today feeling a strange, heavy exhaustion like you ran a marathon in your sleep, you need to understand why. That is not just tiredness. That is not depression. That is spiritual jet lag. Last night, while your body slept, your spirit was pulled into a courtroom battle that stunned the Archangels. The enemy had a legal right to destroy your timeline today. He had the evidence. He had the date. It was supposed to be over. But God did something unprecedented. He issued a divine override that broke the laws of cause and effect just to save you. You are currently walking in a reality that was not guaranteed yesterday. You are a living exception to the rule. Let me show you the verdict that just saved your life. Listen to me closely, because what I am about to describe is the exact reason you feel so disoriented right now. You opened your eyes this morning, and the first thing you felt was a weight on your chest. It was not a sharp pain, but a dull pressure like someone had placed a heavy stone right over your heart while you were sleeping. You tried to shake it off. You tried to tell yourself you just need coffee, or that you stayed up too late scrolling on your phone. But deep down, your spirit knows better. There is a disconnect between your body and your soul right now. Your legs feel heavy as if they are walking through water. Your mind feels foggy like you are trying to remember a conversation you heard in another room. This is what happens when your spirit travels faster than your body can comprehend. You are suffering from spiritual jet lag because last night you were abruptly moved from one timeline to another. You see, in the spirit realm, distance is not measured in miles, it is measured in destiny. Yesterday you were on a trajectory that led to a crisis. The enemy had set a trap that was supposed to snap shut this morning. It was a collision course designed to break your finances, or sever a key relationship, or assault your health. That was the timeline you went to bed with. But while you were unconscious, a shift occurred. You were pulled out of that timeline and placed into a new one. A timeline of mercy. A timeline of second chances. But here is the catch. Your physical body is still vibrating with the residue of the danger you just escaped. That adrenaline you feel, that subtle anxiety humming in the background of your thoughts, is your body reacting to a car crash that almost happened but didn't. You are standing on the safe side of the road, but your nervous system remembers the headlights coming toward you. I need you to stay with me until the very end of this message, because we are going to do something that requires your full attention. We are not just going to talk about this victory, we are going to seal it. Later, I am going to reveal the 7 forms of retaliation the enemy uses when he loses a court case like this, and I will give you the specific veto decree you need to speak to stop him cold. If you leave before we seal this, you leave the door cracked open for him to return. So stay focused. This is your briefing. Now I need to take you back to what happened while you were sleeping. We need to go into the room where the decision was made. I want you to visualize a courtroom, but this is not an earthly court with wooden benches and a tired judge. This is the Supreme Court of the universe. The floor is like a sea of glass. The atmosphere is thick with a silence so heavy it has a physical weight. In this room, there are beings of immense power. The Archangels, Michael, Gabriel. Beings who have witnessed the rise and fall of empires, who have seen stars born and die. They do not get surprised easily. They do not gasp. They do not tremble. They are the standard bearers of divine order. But last night something disrupted their order. The Bible gives us a terrifying glimpse into how this court operates in the book of Job, chapter 1, verse 6. It says, "Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them." Most people read that and miss the terror of the scene. The word Satan here in the original Hebrew is ha-Satan, which literally means the prosecutor or the accuser. He did not break in. He did not sneak in through a back window. He walked in through the front door because in the legal system of the Spirit he has a right to be there. He is the relentless lawyer who knows the law better than anyone, and he uses the law to demand judgment. So picture the scene last night. The prosecutor walked into the presence of God. The archangels watched him. They know him. They know he does not come to chat. He only comes when he has a case. He only comes when he has found a violation. And last night he walked to the center of the room, and he did not scream. He did not rage. He was calm, because he was confident. He held a file in his hand, and on the cover of that file was your name. This is the moment the atmosphere shifted. Usually when the accuser brings a file, it is an open and shut case. He points to the law. He points to the violation, and justice demands a verdict. The angels know the protocol. They expected the gavel to fall. They expected the judgment to be issued. They looked at the file, and they looked at the holy judge, and they prepared themselves to carry out a disciplinary order against you. They were ready to allow the financial loss. They were ready to allow the relationship to break. Not because God hates you, but because the law is the law. But then something happened that made Michael lower his sword. Something happened that made Gabriel stop in his tracks. The judge stood up, and he did not look at the law, he looked at you. And he did something that sent a shockwave through the ranks of heaven. He did not declare you innocent. He did not say the file was empty. He did something far more powerful. He overruled the evidence. The accuser was stunned. He started pointing at the papers in his hand. He started quoting the ancient laws of sowing and reaping. He said, "Look at what they did. Look at what they said. Look at the doubt in their heart. I have the right to touch them. I have the right to sift them like wheat." And he was right. Based on the file, he had every right to bring disaster to your doorstep this morning. But you need to understand what is inside that file. The enemy did not just come with general accusations. He came with specifics. He came with receipts. He had a detailed record of every moment you agreed with him instead of God. He had a transcript of every negative word you spoke over your own future when you were tired and angry. He had the legal footage of your generational bloodline. You need to know exactly what he was using against you, because even though the verdict was overridden, the evidence he holds is real. And if you do not understand what gave him the confidence to walk into God's presence and demand your destruction, you will unknowingly hand him the weapon to try again. Let us open the file. You need to see exactly what the accuser placed on the desk of the Supreme Judge, because if you do not understand the legality of the attack, you will not understand the magnitude of the miracle. The enemy did not come with vague complaints. He came with a specific legal argument based on the laws of the spiritual realm. He opened the file, and the first thing he pointed to was not your future but your lineage. He pointed to the bloodline covenants that were broken by your ancestors before you were even born. He showed the court the patterns of addiction, the patterns of divorce, and the patterns of poverty that have run through your family tree like a poison vine. He argued that because this iniquity is in your blood, he has a legal right to claim your harvest. Then he turned the page and he pointed to your own words. This is where the atmosphere in the courtroom shifted. He played back a recording of you. Not the you that stands in church with hands raised, but the you that sits in your car alone when the breaking point hits. He played the recording of what you said 3 weeks ago when the pressure was too high. He played the moment where you whispered, "I cannot do this anymore." He played the moment where you questioned God's goodness. He played the moment where you spoke death over your own dreams, saying it is never going to happen for me. The accuser looked at the archangels and said, "Listen to them. They have agreed with me with their own mouth. By the law of confession, I have the right to manifest what they have spoken. This is uncomfortable, I know. You want to close your eyes. You want to look away. But do not turn away. We have to face this because this is exactly what happened in the book of Zechariah, chapter 3, verses 1 through 3. This is not a metaphor. This is a pattern. The prophet Zechariah was given a vision of the high priest Joshua standing before the angel of the Lord. Now Joshua was the chosen one of his generation. He was the spiritual leader. He was the man with the calling. But the scripture says that Satan was standing at his right hand to accuse him. Pay attention to the position. Satan was not behind him. He was not hiding in the shadows. He was at his right hand. In a Jewish court of law, the right hand is the position of the prosecutor. It is the position of legal authority. And the scripture gives us a detail that most people skip over, but it is the most important detail of your entire life. It says Joshua was clothed with filthy garments as he stood before the angel. Filthy does not mean dusty. In the original Hebrew, the word used for filthy implies something covered in excrement, something so vile and foul that it makes you want to vomit. Imagine this scene. The high priest, the representative of God, the chosen one, standing in the holiest court in the universe, covered in filth. He is not singing, he is not rebuking, he is standing there silent. Why? Because he knows the clothes are real. He cannot deny the filth. He cannot say, "Excuse me, Satan, you are lying, my clothes are clean." No. The accusation was valid. The dirt was visible. The smell was undeniable. And this is where you have been living for the last few months. This is the root of that heavy feeling you carry in the pit of your stomach. It is called imposter syndrome, but spiritually it is the awareness of your own filthy garments. There is a voice in your head that has been getting louder and louder lately. It tells you that you are a fraud. It tells you that if people really knew who you were, if they knew what you struggle with in secret, if they knew the thoughts that go through your mind when you are angry, they would not call you a chosen one. They would call you a hypocrite. You look at the promises God has given you, and you feel a disconnect. You see the vision of the billionaire blessing. You see the vision of the massive influence. But then you look at your reality and you look at your flaws, and the accuser whispers to you saying, "God cannot use you. You are too broken. You are too damaged. You made too many mistakes in 2022. You wasted too much time. Look at the filth on your clothes. How can a holy God pour $1 billion blessing into a vessel that looks like that?" And the reason this hurts so much, the reason you sometimes cry yourself to sleep, wondering if God has lifted his hand from you, is because deep down, you agree with the accuser. You know he is not making it up. You know you have failed. You know you have had moments of doubt. You know you have let your anger get the best of you. You stand in the courtroom of your own conscience, just like Joshua stood, and you have no defense. You are silent because you know the clothes are dirty. This is the legal ground the enemy stood on last night. He looked at the judge and said, "Justice demands that we strip this person of their destiny. Justice demands that we block their financial breakthrough because they have not stewarded what they already have. Justice demands that we sever this relationship because they are not healed enough to handle it." He was not asking for permission to attack you illegally. He was demanding the right to attack you legally based on the evidence of your own imperfection. And here is the trap that almost killed you. This is the false summit that catches almost every chosen one. You thought your defense was your faithfulness. You thought you could stand up in that courtroom and say, "Objection, Your Honor, I have been faithful." I have prayed. I have fasted. I have given to the poor. I have sacrificed my time. You thought your track record of service was the currency that would pay off this debt. You have been trying to wash your own clothes. That is what you have been doing for the last year. Every time you mess up, you try to do 3 good things to make up for it. Every time you have a negative thought, you try to force yourself to think positive. You are exhausted because you are scrubbing and scrubbing, trying to get the stain out, trying to make yourself presentable enough for the breakthrough. You think that if you can just be perfect for 40 days straight, then the blessing will come. You think that if you can just pray hard enough, you will silence the accuser. But let me tell you the terrifying truth about the courtroom of heaven. Your faithfulness is not enough. If God judged you last night based on your faithfulness, you would have lost the case. If the verdict depended on how clean you managed to keep your own clothes, the gavel would have come down against you. The enemy had a list of every time your faithfulness wavered. He had a list of every time you promised God you would change and then went right back to the same habit. He had the evidence that your righteousness is as filthy rags. So stop. Stop trying to defend yourself with your resume. Stop trying to point to your prayer life as the reason you should be saved. The accuser laughed at your resume last night. He tore your list of good deeds in half. He showed that for every one act of obedience there was an act of hesitation. He showed that your motives were often mixed with pride or fear. He dismantled your defense in seconds. Based on the law of works, you were guilty. Based on the evidence of human perfection, you were disqualified. The archangels knew it. Satan knew it. You know it. That is why the silence in the room was so deafening. That is why the tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. It looked like the end. It looked like the accuser had finally won. He leaned forward, expecting the judge to nod in agreement. He expected the order to be given to strip you of your calling and cast you aside. But you are still here. You are watching this video. You are breathing. The disaster did not happen. The bank account did not go to zero. The relationship did not implode beyond repair. You woke up. So if your faithfulness did not save you, and if your perfection did not save you, and if your resume did not save you, then what happened? How did you escape a verdict that was legally airtight? How did a person standing in filthy garments walk out of the courtroom with a clean slate? You think that the answer is simply that God is nice. You think he just winked at your sin and let it slide. No. God is holy. He cannot just ignore the law. He cannot just pretend the filth is not there. That would make him an unjust judge. The accuser would have grounds to appeal if God just ignored the evidence. Something else happened. Something far more ancient and far more powerful than the law of works was activated. There is a secret clause in the Constitution of the Kingdom, a clause that overrides the evidence of the prosecution. A clause that silences the accuser, not by proving him wrong, but by making his argument irrelevant. You escaped last night, not because you were innocent, but because you were the recipient of a specific kind of intervention that breaks the rules of logic. You need to know what this intervention is because it is the only thing standing between you and the destruction the enemy planned. You think your faithfulness is the defense. No. If we used your faithfulness record, you still lose. Something else saved you. You are still standing in the courtroom. The evidence is on the table. The filth on your garments is visible. And you are waiting for the sentence. You are waiting for the judge to agree with the accuser because legally he has to. The law is the law. If you break the law, you must pay the price. And you broke it. You doubted. You stumbled. You spoke fear. The accuser is smiling because he knows that God is a just judge. He knows that God cannot lie. If God said that the wages of sin is death, then God must deliver death. The accuser is counting on God's own integrity to destroy you. He is using God's own word against God's own child. This is the moment of absolute despair. This is where you realize that your faithfulness was never going to be enough to save you. You could have prayed for 10 hours a day. You could have given every dollar you owned to the poor. It would not matter, because the law of the Spirit is binary. It is all or nothing. If you keep the whole law but stumble in just one point, you are guilty of all. Your resume of good works is like trying to pay off $1 billion debt with a handful of pennies. It is insulting to the court. The accuser looks at your pennies and laughs. He knows you are bankrupt. The archangels Michael and Gabriel are standing at attention. Their hands are on the hilts of their swords. They are ready to execute the judgment. They are not emotional beings in this moment. They are servants of justice. They have seen this happen 1,000,000 times. A soul sins. The accuser proves it. The judgment falls. It is the machinery of the universe. It is cause and effect. It is the rhythm of holiness. They fully expected God to nod his head and allow the enemy to touch your life. They expected the calamity to hit you this morning. They expected the phone call that brings bad news. They expected the diagnosis. They expected the breakup, because that is what the law demanded. But then the unthinkable happened. This is the moment that stunned the hosts of heaven. This is the moment that made the accuser drop his file in shock. The judge stood up, and he did not look at the law books. He did not look at the evidence of your failure. He looked at the accuser, and he spoke a single word that shattered the legal framework of the entire proceeding. He did not say, "innocent," because you are not innocent. He said, "veto." He issued a divine veto. You need to understand what a veto is. A veto does not say that the law wasn't broken. A veto says that the executive power has decided to override the consequences of the law for a higher purpose. God did not say you didn't mess up. He admitted the filth was there. But he reached into a jurisdiction that the enemy forgot about. He reached into the secret clause of the covenant. There is a scripture in the book of James, chapter 2, verse 13, that explains exactly what happened in that room last night. In English it says, "Mercy triumphs over judgment." It sounds nice. It sounds poetic. It sounds soft. But the English translation is too weak. It does not capture the violence of what happened. The Greek word used for triumphs is katakauchaomai. Listen to the sound of that word, katakauchaomai. It does not mean to win politely. It means to boast against. It means to glory over. It means to exult over a defeated enemy with a shout of victory. It is an aggressive military term. It is the image of a warrior standing over a fallen foe and shouting in triumph. So when the Bible says mercy triumphs over judgment, it means that mercy walked into the courtroom last night and picked a fight with judgment. Judgment said, "They are guilty." Mercy shouted, "Katakau chomai." Judgment said, "They deserve pain." Mercy shouted, "Katakau chomai." Judgment said, "Look at their filthy clothes." Mercy walked up to judgment, got in its face and said, "I do not care about the clothes, I care about the child." This is why the angels were stunned. They watched mercy bully judgment into submission. They watched God violate the expectations of logic to save you. The accuser started stammering. He started quoting the rules. He said, "But God, you said the soul that sins shall die. You cannot just let them go. That is illegal." And God looked at the accuser and said, "I am not just letting them go. I am paying their bail with my own blood. I am overruling your evidence with my own sacrifice." I am using my sovereign right to veto your request for their destruction." The gavel came down, but it did not hit you. It hit the cross. The shockwave of that veto shook the foundations of the spiritual realm. The file the enemy was holding turned to dust. The plan he had for your destruction today was cancelled, not delayed. Cancelled. The accident you were supposed to have was deleted. The argument that was supposed to end your marriage was silenced. The financial loss that was supposed to bankrupt you was blocked. This is the divine veto. It is the secret clause that kicks in when a chosen one is at the end of their rope. It is the mechanism God uses when your faithfulness runs out and His faithfulness takes over. You were not saved last night because you were good. You were saved because God is Dad. And a father has the right to overrule the rules of his own house to protect his kids. Now listen to me, because this explains your symptoms. When that veto was issued, when that gavel slammed down, a massive shift occurred in the quantum fabric of your destiny. You were physically moved from timeline A to timeline B. In timeline A, the one the enemy had prepared, you woke up this morning to disaster. In timeline A, you were currently dealing with a crisis that would have set you back 10 years. In timeline A, you were broken. But you are not in timeline A. You are in timeline B. In this timeline, the sun is shining. In this timeline, you are breathing. In this timeline, the crisis is missing. But your body, your physical vessel, is suffering from the whiplash of that sudden transfer. That is why you feel the heaviness. That is why you feel the fatigue. Your spirit is vibrating at the frequency of a miracle, while your body is still recovering from the stress of a danger it never actually had to face. You are walking in a reality that technically shouldn't exist. You are living on borrowed time, but it is time borrowed from heaven. You are a walking contradiction to the enemy's plans. Every breath you take today is a defiant act of war against the accuser who wanted you dead. Every time you smile today, you are proving him wrong. So, I need you to do something right now in your spirit. I want you to close your eyes for a second, if it is safe to do so. If not, just visualize this in your mind. Picture that courtroom. Picture the accuser standing there with his empty hands, looking confused. Picture the file of evidence turning to ash on the floor. And picture the judge looking at you not with anger but with the fierce protective look of a father who just cleared the room to save his child. Take a deep breath in. And as you inhale, imagine you are breathing in the air of this new timeline, the air of the veto. And as you exhale, release the fear of the old timeline. Release the guilt. Release the feeling that you have to earn this. You cannot earn a veto. You can only receive it. Say this in your mind. I accept the veto. I step into the new timeline. I leave the judgment behind. Feel that weight lifting off your chest. That is the spiritual jet lag fading away as your soul aligns with your new reality. You are safe. You are covered. The verdict is in, and you have won. But do not get too comfortable yet. There is a danger in winning a court case against a sore loser. When a prisoner is released at the last minute, when the charges are dropped in a high-profile case, the prosecutor does not just shake hands and go home. He is angry, he is humiliated, and he is vindictive. The accuser has been thrown out of the courtroom, but he is waiting for you in the parking lot. He cannot arrest you anymore. He has lost his legal standing to destroy you. But he can still harass you. He can still try to trick you into believing that the veto wasn't real. He can still try to steal your peace, even if he cannot steal your soul. He is waiting right outside the doors of this revelation, and he has a new strategy. Since he cannot use the big law against you anymore, he is going to use guerrilla warfare. He is going to use petty attacks. He is going to use 7 specific forms of retaliation to try and make you miserable in your freedom. You need to know exactly what he is planning to do in the next 40 days, because if you do not recognize him in the parking lot, you might let him back into the car. You might be listening to this and thinking that this concept of a divine veto sounds like a fairy tale. You might be thinking that things like that do not happen in the real world, where bills are due and medical diagnoses are final. So, let me ground this for you. Let me tell you about someone who sat exactly where you are sitting right now just 9 months ago. Let us call him James. James was not a perfect man. In fact, he had made a series of terrible financial decisions that had led his family to the brink of ruin. He had invested in things he should not have touched. He had ignored the warnings of his wife. He was guilty of poor stewardship. The accuser had a field day with James. The enemy had built a legal case against him that was airtight. The foreclosure notice was on the kitchen table. It was not a threat, it was a scheduled event. The date was set for a Tuesday. James spent that Monday night sitting at his table, staring at the paper. He held a pen in his hand, ready to sign a document that would declare bankruptcy. He felt the weight of failure crushing his chest. He heard the voice of the accuser screaming, "You did this. You destroyed your family. You are a failure." And James agreed. He knew he was guilty. He knew the law of sowing and reaping was coming for him. He capped the pen and went to sleep, preparing to lose everything the next morning. But that night a veto was issued in the courts of heaven. Not because James was a genius investor, not because he fixed his mistake, but because he cried out to God with a repentant heart, and God activated the mercy clause. James woke up that Tuesday morning with a stomachache, expecting the sheriff to arrive. Instead, his phone rang at 8 a.m. It was a business partner he had not spoken to in 4 years. This partner had bought a piece of land that James had a small, forgotten share in. For years, that land was worthless. But that morning, the partner called to say a developer had just bought it for 10 times its value. The wire transfer hit James' account 2 hours before the foreclosure deadline. It was the exact amount needed to clear the debt, with enough left over to restart. James stood in his kitchen looking at the foreclosure notice and then looking at his bank balance. It did not make sense. Mathematically, he should have been ruined. Legally, he should have been homeless. But spiritually, he had been vetoed. The disaster was deleted from his timeline, and he was placed on a new path. This is not a fairy tale. This is the mechanics of the kingdom. And if God can do it for James, he can do it for you. But this brings us to the dangerous part. This brings us to the parking lot. Because you need to know what happened to James 3 days after that miracle. He got into a massive argument with his wife. His car broke down, and a sudden wave of depression hit him so hard he almost couldn't get out of bed. He thought God had left him again. He thought the miracle was a mistake. Why does this happen? Why does all hell seem to break loose right after heaven moves on your behalf? You have to understand the psychology of your enemy. The accuser is a legalist. He loves rules. And when he loses a case in court, he does not just accept it and move on. He gets angry. He gets filled with a blind, destructive rage. There is a verse in the book of Revelation, chapter 12, verse 12, that explains the atmosphere of your life right now. It says, "Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, because the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, because he knows that he has a short time." Listen to those 2 phrases, great wrath and short time. This is the retaliation logic. The enemy knows he cannot reverse the veto. He cannot go back into the courtroom and change the judge's mind. The verdict is sealed, so he changes his strategy. If he cannot legally destroy you, he will illegally harass you. He wants to make you so miserable in your new timeline that you voluntarily walk back into the old one. He wants to torment you with fear until you drop the blessing God just gave you. He is like a tenant who has been evicted from a house. The judge has ordered him to leave. The sheriff has served the papers. He knows he has to go. But because he has great wrath and because he knows his time is short, he decides to trash the house on his way out. He punches holes in the walls. He breaks the windows. He tries to cause as much damage as possible before he is forced to exit the property. You are the house. The eviction notice has been served. The enemy is leaving. But that chaos you are feeling right now, that sudden flare-up of conflict, that strange anxiety, that intense pressure in your mind, that is him punching holes in the walls on his way out, it is not a sign that he is winning. It is a proof that he has lost. If he still had legal ownership of you, he would be calm. He is making noise because he is being evicted. So do not let him fool you. He wants you to think that this new attack means the veto didn't work. He wants you to think, oh no, here we go again, nothing has changed. That is a lie. Everything has changed. The noise you hear is the sound of a defeated enemy throwing a tantrum. But you must be smart. A defeated enemy is still dangerous if you do not know how he fights. He is not going to come at you with a direct frontal assault anymore because he does not have the authority. He is going to switch to guerrilla warfare. He is going to use snipers instead of tanks. He is going to use traps instead of walls. He has developed a specific playbook for chosen ones who have just been vindicated. For the next 40 days, you are going to be walking through a spiritual minefield. It is a season of calibration. And the enemy has prepared 7 specific forms of attack to try and steal your peace. He is not going to use all of them at once. He is going to use the one you are weakest against. He is going to try to lure you into a trap where you agree with his lies and accidentally open the door he just got kicked out of. You need to know exactly what these 7 forms look like so that when they show up, you do not panic. You simply recognize them and say, I know who you are and you have no power here. Welcome to the combat zone. You have received the divine veto. You have shifted timelines, but now you must hold your ground. The enemy knows he cannot touch your soul, but he is betting everything on the hope that he can touch your mind. He has a playbook that he has been using for thousands of years, against chosen ones who have just received a breakthrough. He is not creative, but he is effective because he relies on the element of surprise. He relies on you not knowing that what is happening to you is a strategy. He wants you to think it is just bad luck. He wants you to think it is just a coincidence. But today we are going to expose his entire operation. We are going to shine a light on the 7 specific traps he has set for you in this season of transition. We are going to dismantle them one by one so that when they happen, and they will happen, you will not react with fear. You will react with the calm confidence of a warrior who has read the enemy's mail. The first form of retaliation is the dream attack. You need to be very careful with what happens in your sleep for the next few nights. When you are awake, your conscious mind is guarded. You are alert. You are listening to truth. But when you sleep, your subconscious mind is vulnerable. The enemy knows that if he can get you to agree to a lie in your sleep, he can drag that agreement into your waking life. So here is what this looks like. You might go to bed feeling peaceful, feeling victorious, but then you find yourself in a dream where you are back in an old environment. You are back in your high school, walking down the hallways, unable to find your class. Or you are back in the house you lived in 10 years ago. Or you are back in a relationship with an ex who broke your heart. In the dream, you feel small. You feel confused. You feel lost. Or maybe it is a dream of pursuit. You are running from something you cannot see. Your legs feel heavy like lead. You try to scream, but no sound comes out of your throat. You wake up with your heart racing, feeling exhausted, feeling a lingering sense of dread that follows you into your morning coffee. Listen to me. This is not just a nightmare. This is a legal maneuver. The enemy is trying to pull you back into an expired timeline. By placing you in your old school or your old house, he is trying to get your spirit to accept that you are still that old version of yourself. He wants you to wake up and feel like a failure so that you forget the veto that was issued yesterday. He is trying to reissue the warrant for your arrest in the court of your subconscious. So here is your counter strategy. This is how you fight back without even getting out of bed. When you wake up from a dream like that, do not just shake it off and start your day. Do not let that residue stick to you. Lay there for a moment. Keep your eyes closed. And in your mind, I want you to visualize a giant red stamp. In your imagination, pull up that dream you just had. Pull up the image of that old house or that scary figure, and then slam that red stamp down on it. See the word void stamped across the dream. Say this in your spirit: I do not consent to this dream. That is not my reality. I am in a new timeline. I cancel this assignment in the name of the veto. When you do this, you are breaking the contract. You are telling the enemy that he cannot squat in your subconscious. You are evicting him from your sleep. The second form of retaliation is the phantom pain. This one is deceptive because it feels physical, but its root is spiritual. You might be feeling great and then suddenly out of nowhere you get a sharp pain in your lower back, or a sudden intense headache right behind your eyes, or a wave of nausea that has no medical explanation. You assume you slept wrong. You assume you ate something bad. But look at the timing. It happened right after you made a decision to trust God. It happened right after you stepped into peace. The enemy uses physical pain as a distraction technique. He knows that it is hard to pray when your back hurts. He knows it is hard to focus on your destiny when you have a migraine. He wants you to focus on your body so that you take your eyes off the prize. He wants you to declare, I am sick, instead of declaring, I am healed. He wants you to adopt the identity of a patient instead of the identity of a victor. This is a somatic attack. It is a bluff. He is trying to manifest a symptom to make you fear that the stress is killing you or that some old illness is returning. He wants to trigger health anxiety because fear is the quickest way to lower your spiritual frequency. Here is how you handle the phantom pain. Do not ignore your body, but do not bow to the fear. If you need to take medicine, take it, but do not take the identity of the sickness. In your mind, I want you to speak to the pain. Visualize the area of your body that is hurting. See it glowing with a warning light. Now imagine the light of the divine veto flowing into that spot. Tell the pain this: you are a trespasser. You have no legal right to be here. My body is the temple of the protected. Go. You will be amazed at how often the pain vanishes the moment you expose it as a spiritual attack. It leaves because its cover is blown. It only works if you think it is just biology. Once you call it what it is, a distraction from the enemy, it loses its power. The third form of retaliation is the financial glitch. This is the one that frustrates chosen ones the most. It usually happens within 48 hours of a financial breakthrough or a moment of generosity. Let's say you just decided to tithe, or you just received a promise of abundance. Suddenly your check engine light comes on, or the washing machine breaks and floods the floor, or you get a bill in the mail that is exactly the amount of money you just saved. It feels like a punishment. It feels like every time you take one step forward, you get knocked 2 steps back. You catch yourself saying, "I just can't get ahead." Something always happens. Stop. Do not say that. That sentence is exactly what the enemy wants you to say. That sentence is a curse you are placing on your own timeline. The financial glitch is not a sign that God has abandoned you. It is a tax the enemy is trying to levy on your blessing. He is trying to steal your joy. He knows he cannot stop the flow of God's provision, so he tries to poke holes in your bucket. He wants you to look at the broken car and forget the veto. He wants you to panic over the bill so that you stop trusting in the provider. So how do you fight a broken washing machine spiritually? You fight it with aggressive peace. When the glitch happens, do not react with anger. Do not scream. Do not cry. Laugh. I am serious. Look at the problem and laugh. Because you know where it came from. Say to the enemy in your mind, "Oh, I see you. You are mad because I won. You broke my dishwasher because you couldn't break my destiny." Then pay the bill or fix the problem without grumbling. Treat it like a small fee you have to pay to evict a tenant. It is just the cost of doing business. Do not let a $300 repair bill steal a $1 million peace. When you refuse to get upset, you disarm the attack. You show the enemy that your joy is not tied to your circumstances. You show him that he cannot manipulate your emotions with material things anymore. These 3 forms, the dream attack, the phantom pain, and the financial glitch, are the enemy's way of attacking your perimeter. He is hitting your sleep, your body, and your wallet. These are external attacks. They are annoying. They are frustrating. But they are manageable if you keep your eyes open. But I have to warn you, the next 4 forms of retaliation are different. They are not just annoying, they are dangerous. Because the enemy knows that he can break your car and you will fix it. He can disturb your sleep and you will wake up. So now he is going to aim for something deeper. He is going to aim for something you cannot just fix with a mechanic. He is going to launch an assault on your mind and your identity. He is going to try to turn your closest allies against you. He is going to try to convince you that you are crazy. This is where the battle shifts from physical guerrilla warfare to psychological warfare. This is where most chosen ones stumble because they do not see it coming until the knife is already in their back. You need to prepare yourself for what I am about to reveal, because these next traps are designed to make you surrender the veto voluntarily. The first 3 forms of retaliation were physical. They were distractions designed to annoy you. But the next 4 forms are surgical. They are designed to dismantle you. The enemy knows that he can annoy you with a broken car, and you will survive. But if he can get inside your head, if he can make you doubt your own identity, he does not need to destroy you, because you will destroy yourself. You need to listen to this with your spirit wide open, because I guarantee that at least one of these traps has been set for you in the last 24 hours. The 4th form of retaliation is the whisper of fraud. You know this feeling. The world calls it imposter syndrome, but in the spirit realm it is the voice of the accuser trying to reopen a closed case. It usually happens right after you receive a compliment or an opportunity. Let us say you get a promotion, or someone tells you that your life inspires them, or you finally step into a leadership role. In that exact moment, a cold thought slides into your brain. It whispers, "Who do you think you are?" It says, "You are faking it," and eventually they are going to find out. It reminds you of a sin you committed 10 years ago. It reminds you of your lack of education or your family background. It tells you that you are just a child wearing a costume, and that any minute now the mask is going to fall off. This is not humility. Do not confuse this with humility. This is an attack on the veto. The enemy is trying to convince you that the filthy garments we talked about earlier are still on you. He wants you to identify with the filth instead of the veto. He wants you to shrink back. He wants you to sabotage your own success because you feel like you don't deserve it. Here is the counter strategy. You cannot fight this whisper with positive thinking. You cannot just tell yourself, "I am great." The enemy will laugh at that. You have to fight it with legal precedent. When that voice says, "You are a fraud," you do not argue your merit, you argue the veto. In your mind right now, I want you to visualize that voice as a person standing in the corner of the room. Look at them and say this decree internally. You are right. I was not worthy, but I was vetoed. My qualification does not come from my resume, it comes from the blood of the King. Silence. When you agree that you were unworthy but declare that you were chosen anyway, you disarm the enemy. You take the weapon out of his hand. He cannot accuse someone who has already admitted they are a recipient of mercy. The fifth form of retaliation is the isolation pressure. This is the one that breaks the heart of the chosen one. As soon as you shift timelines, you will notice a strange phenomenon. The phone stops ringing. People you used to be close with suddenly start acting weird. They misunderstand you, they get offended by things you didn't even say, or they simply ghost you. You feel an intense wave of loneliness. You feel like you have been quarantined, and the enemy whispers, "See, nobody likes the new you. You are losing everyone. You are going to be alone forever." He wants you to panic and run back to those old relationships. He wants you to lower your vibration just to fit in again. But listen to me. This isolation is not rejection. It is protection. When a patient undergoes a massive surgery, they are placed in a sterile recovery room. Only essential personnel are allowed in. Why? Because their immune system is resetting. They cannot handle the germs of the outside world yet. You just underwent a massive spiritual surgery. God removed a cancer from your destiny. The divine veto has placed you in a sterile recovery room. God is removing people from your life, not because they are bad, but because they carry the germs of the old timeline. They carry the doubts and the habits and the mindsets that you just got free from. If they stayed, they would reinfect you. So when you feel that loneliness, do not text them, do not chase them. Lean into the silence. View the empty room not as a prison, but as a VIP section. God has cleared the room so he can speak to you without interruption. Say this in your spirit: I accept the quarantine. I trust the clearing. I am not alone. I am set apart. The sixth form of retaliation is the old cycle bait. This is the enemy's favorite trick. He knows that human beings crave familiarity, even if it is toxic. So right after you step into the new timeline, he will dangle a piece of the old timeline in front of you, and he will make it look shiny. This often looks like an ex-partner texting you out of the blue saying they have changed, or an old job offering you more money to come back to a toxic environment, or a sudden opportunity to make quick money doing something that compromises your values. It looks like a blessing. It looks like an open door. But it is a trapdoor. The enemy is trying to get you to voluntarily step back into the cage you just prayed to get out of. He knows that if you take the bait, you void the warranty on your new timeline. You reset the clock on your wilderness season. You need to recognize this immediately. If something from your past shows up right now with a smile on its face, check its ID. Ask yourself, does this align with the veto, or does it align with the verdict I escaped? Here is your mental action. Visualize that offer or that person as a beautifully wrapped box sitting on a table. Now visualize yourself using your spiritual X-ray vision to look inside. See the chains inside the box. See the misery you used to feel. See the truth. And say this: That is Plan A. That timeline was deleted. I do not eat from the trash can of my past. I decline. The seventh form of retaliation is the offense trap. This is the most common and the most effective way the enemy lowers your frequency. He will send an agent of distraction to offend you. This could be a stranger being incredibly rude to you in traffic. It could be a nasty comment on social media. It could be a family member saying exactly the thing they know triggers your anger. The enemy knows that you are powerful when you are in peace. So he wants to pull you into a street fight. He wants you to get down in the mud and wrestle with a pig. He wants you to spend 3 hours replaying an argument in your head. He wants you to type out a long, angry response. Why? Because you cannot manifest a kingdom destiny while holding a spirit of offense. Offense is a heavy energy. It anchors you to the earth. It blocks the flow of revelation. If he can get you angry, he can blind you. So here is the strategy. When the offense comes, and it will come today, treat it like a bait on a hook. Look at the rude person and realize they are just a puppet. They are being used to distract you. Do not hate the puppet. Pity the puppet. Do not bite the hook. Do not engage. Do not defend yourself. Do not type the comment. Just look at it and smile. Say this internally. I am too expensive for this argument. My destiny is too high for this low-frequency battle. I release you. You have now seen the 7 forms. You have the map. You know that the dream is a lie. You know the pain is a distraction. You know the financial glitch is a tax. You know the whisper is a fraud. You know the isolation is protection. You know the old cycle is a trap. And you know the offense is bait. You are armed. You are dangerous. But simply knowing the enemy's moves is not enough to secure the victory forever. You can defend yourself all day, but if you do not know how to stabilize your own energy in this new timeline, you will eventually get tired. You will eventually slip. Defending the territory is one thing. Living in it is another. You need to know how to calibrate your spirit so that this new level of favor becomes your permanent normal, not just a fleeting moment. There is a specific protocol for stabilization that you need to apply for the next 3 days to lock this in. You have the weapons. You have the map. You know the 7 traps. But there is one final piece of the puzzle you need before we seal this verdict forever. Defense is necessary, but you were not created just to defend. You were created to occupy. You were created to thrive. The divine veto was not given to you just so you could survive the attacks of the enemy. It was given to you so you could establish a new legacy. But to do that, you must stabilize your energy. You cannot build a kingdom while you are dizzy from spiritual jet lag. Let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah is a real chosen one who stood exactly where you are standing about a year ago. She received a massive breakthrough in her career, a position of influence that she had prayed for since she was a child. But immediately after she got the role, all 7 forms of retaliation hit her at once. She had the nightmares. Her car broke down. Her old friends called her arrogant. She felt the isolation. For the first 20 days, she almost quit. She wrote a resignation letter 3 times. She cried every night asking God why he gave her a blessing that felt like a curse. But she did not send the letter. She did not text the old friends. She recognized the traps. She stood her ground. She treated the isolation as protection. She treated the whispers as lies. She just kept showing up. And then on day 41, something shifted. The attacks didn't just stop. They dissolved. The atmosphere around her changed. She walked into her office and instead of feeling like a fraud, she felt a weight of glory settle on her shoulders. Her voice commanded respect. The projects that were blocked suddenly unlocked. She realized that the 40 days of battle were not a punishment, they were a conditioning process. Because she held her ground, she didn't just keep the job, she became the authority in that job. Today she is not fighting for her position, she is ruling from it. That is where you are going. Stability is waiting for you on the other side of this transition. But to get there, you need to help your body and soul catch up to your spirit. Remember, we talked about spiritual jet lag at the beginning. You are still vibrating between two frequencies. Your spirit is in the new timeline, but your nervous system is still reacting to the old trauma. If you do not calibrate your vessel, you will burn out before you reach day 40. So I am giving you the 3-day calibration framework. This is not just advice, this is a spiritual prescription. For the next 72 hours, I need you to do 3 specific things to lock in this new reality. First, you need to aggressively hydrate. I know this sounds physical, but water is a spiritual conductor. Your body is 70% water. When you shift timelines, your cellular structure is literally rewriting itself to hold more light. This process creates metabolic waste. You need to flush the old timeline out of your system physically. For the next 3 days, every time you drink water, I want you to say internally, I am washing away the residue of the past. Treat every glass of water as a baptism for your cells. Second, you need to practice grounding. You have so much high-voltage energy running through you right now from this revelation that you might feel ungrounded or anxious. You need to connect to the earth. If you can go outside and stand on the grass barefoot, do it. But if you cannot, I want you to do this mental action right now. Imagine roots growing out of the bottom of your feet. See them going down through the floor, down through the foundation of the building, deep into the soil of the earth. Feel the stability of the planet supporting you. You are not floating, you are planted. The veto has planted you in a sure place. Third, and most importantly, you need strategic silence. For the next 3 days, tell no one about this veto. Do not share your big dreams. Do not post about your breakthrough on social media. Do not call your best friend to explain the revelation you just had. Why? Because a seed that is dug up every day cannot grow. Your new timeline is a fragile seed. It needs the darkness of the soil to take root. If you expose it to the opinions of others right now before it is stabilized, they will kill it with their doubt. Keep it secret. Keep it sacred. Let the silence be the incubator for your miracle. If you do these 3 things, hydrate, ground, and stay silent, you will feel the spiritual jet lag vanish. You will feel a click in your spirit. That click is the sound of your soul locking into alignment with God's plan. Now listen to me. We have covered the diagnosis. We have seen the courtroom. We have exposed the enemy, and we have the strategy for stability. But all of this information is useless if it stays in your head. You can know everything about the veto, but if it is not legally sealed in your spirit, the enemy can still challenge it. In the ancient world, a king's decree was not law until it was sealed with the king's signet ring. Without the seal, it was just a piece of paper. You have the paper in your hand, but you need the seal. We are about to move from teaching to activation. We are about to perform a spiritual transaction that will mark you in the unseen realm. This is the moment where we go from learning about the victory to stepping into it. I need you to prepare your heart, because once we seal this, there is no going back to the old you. Wherever you are right now, I need you to shift your posture. If you are in a safe place, stand up on your feet. Stand up physically to show the enemy that you are no longer laying down under his attacks. If you are driving, or if you cannot move, then stand up in your spirit. Straighten your spine. Lift your chin. Place your right hand over your heart. We are notifying the universe of the transaction that has already taken place. I step into the authority given to me by the living God, and I declare that the courts of heaven are open over you right now. I declare that the atmosphere in your room is shifting from a place of battle to a place of coronation. The accuser has been silenced, the evidence has been burned, and the King is in the room. Father, I acknowledge this chosen one standing before you. I see the nights they cried into their pillow when no one was watching. I see the confusion they carried when they did everything right and things still went wrong. I see the heaviness of the spiritual jet lag they felt this morning. They are tired, God, but they are still standing. They are scarred, but they are still believing. And today, they are ready to receive the veto. In the name of Yeshua, I seal the divine veto over this life. I declare that the verdict of destruction is officially overturned. I seal the new timeline. I declare that the accidents, the losses, and the heartbreaks that were scheduled for today are cancelled and deleted from the record. I seal the wisdom of the 7 forms of retaliation in their mind. I bind the spirit of the dream attack. You will not torment their sleep anymore. I bind the phantom pain. You will not touch their body anymore. I bind the financial glitch. You will not touch their resources anymore. I silence the whisper of fraud. I silence the voice that says they are not worthy. I break the power of isolation, and I rename it protection. I expose the old cycle bait, and I declare that they will not return to the vomit of their past. I bind the spirit of offense. You will not steal their peace. I declare that for the next 40 days a hedge of fire is drawn around this chosen one. I declare that as they hydrate, as they ground themselves, and as they walk in strategic silence, their energy will stabilize. They will not slip back. They will not crash. They will ascend. I prophesy that within 40 days from this moment, you will see the physical manifestation of the veto. You will see the money that was held up suddenly released. You will see the phone call that changes everything. You will look back at this moment of heaviness and realize it was the birth pangs of your greatest season. I commission you now. You are not a victim. You are a vetoed child of the Most High. You carry the signature of God on your spirit. When you walk into a room, demons tremble because they see the seal. Are you ready to carry this? Are you ready to walk in this level of power without apologizing for it? If you are ready, open your mouth and say, yes. Say it loud. Let the enemy hear you. Say, yes. It is done. The seal is set. The timeline is locked. Do not say Amen yet. Just stand in this power. Feel it. Now. Go.